Alright, so how does the sun work? This is pretty curious in my opinion, and its inner workings are actually a little bit more complicated and amazing than may seem at first sight. As we all know, or at least most of us, I believe, I hope, um, we know that the sun is a big ass ball of hydrogen gas and a little bit of helium and maybe some other material, but in infinitesimal proportions. And how it works is basically it has to basically counteract its own gravitational collapse through the pressure generated by the energy generating process, which is nuclear fusion. Basically, what happens is the enormous pressures in the sun ionize, namely strip the electrons of the nuclei in the atoms and basically let the nuclei, which are made of protons and neutrons, roam around freely and collide with each other, and every now and then two hydrogen nuclei come together and through an exothermal process, namely a process which you input a certain amount of energy and you get out another certain amount, but it liberates heat energy in the form of radiation. That's basically what happens. But it does not only occur through the collisions of the atoms, but rather because the densities, but also it occurs because of that, but that's not the only mechanism. What happens is basically the second reason that fusion is able to happen in the sun is due to the huge densities and basically sheer amounts of matter in the inner layers that enable basically the wave functions of the atoms to basically be squeezed together really tight and become, let's say, superimposed, and thus what happens is basically a sort of quantum tunneling process from one nucleus, one nuclear proton to the other one, and basically what happens is the probability that a proton is a certain place and that place coincides with the position of the other proton in the other nuclei, then that probability is high enough so that it becomes a, a common event, a common occurrence, and nuclear fusion occurs. So it occurs through those two processes, namely the high pressures causing the nuclei to collide and the high densities enabling the wave function overlap that allows quantum tunneling of one nuclei into the other. That is, the second process is something that kind of blew my mind the first time, because you wouldn't normally imagine that something like that is happening at such a big scale all the time. And that is also part of the reason why artificial fusion reactors are so difficult to run, because on Earth we have to rely solely on the pressure part of the process, and it's much more difficult to attain those pressures and temperatures to be able to get a reliable source of energy solely from that effect. So yeah, that's basically what happens. Then we also have, that's, a very concise and rough summary of what's going on. Very rough picture, but I believe it's enough for you to be able to look at the sun and kind of have an idea of what's going on. We also have a lot of other processes, inter, processes that involve the electrons too, and convection that generates this, as you may have seen these pictures, that the sun looks kind of scaly with these patches of matter coming from the inner layers and then kind of circling and going back down. We have also the kind of this solar flares, which are phenomena due to the magnetic field of the sun, which happens because we have all of these ionized materials spinning within at super high energies, generates a super strong magnetic field. So yeah, that's basically kind of a picture of what's going on. The sun is a very intricate machine, very curious that we are around it all the time, but this, never consider really thinking it through too much and trying to figure out, at least understand roughly what's happening, how this thing that supports the entire ecosystem of Earth works. So yeah, that is it for this video.